call to order the Attleboro School Committee meeting for Monday, March 18th, 2013. If we all rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. This meeting is being electronically recorded. Tonight, if we could have a moment of silence for Eileen Curtis, who worked for Attleboro Public Schools as an elementary teacher for 39 years. She was a third grade teacher at Willett Elementary School upon her retirement in 2005. So if we can have a moment of silence from Ms. Curtis. Okay. And our thoughts and prayers are with her family. And now we'll go to community update, sponsored events with Mr. Keith Drucker.
Thank you, Mrs. Furtado. Here are our school-sponsored events for this school committee meeting, March 18th. District-wide, on March 29th, there will be no school. And on April 5th, the middle school's school-wide vocabulary bee will be held. Good luck to all participants. Here at Attleboro High School, on March 19th, the Parent Advisory Group will be held at 5 p.m. in the LMC, or Library Media Center. On March 20th, the Prism Concert will be held at 7 p.m. in the Bray Auditorium. On March 20th, the AP Potential Meeting will be held at 6 p.m. in the Mini Auditorium. On March 21st, Attleboro IDA will be held at 6:30 p.m. in the Bray Auditorium. On March 23rd, the AP English Review Session will be held from 8 to 3. On March 26th, trimester 2 ends, on trimester 2 final exams will be held on March 26th, and that will be a full day for students. But on March 27th, trimester 2 final exams will also be held, and that will be a half day. And on March 28th is the transition day, and that's a half day for all students. On April 5th to April 6th, April 5th and April 6th, the spring musical will be held at 7 p.m. in the Bray Auditorium. And finally, on April 6th, the AP Math Saturday session will be held at Norton High School, and that's from 8 to 3 p.m. So those are your Attleboro High School sponsored events. There's definitely a lot going on. Over to the middle schools at Brennan, on April 3rd, the Best Buddies R-Word assemblies will be held for grades 7 and 8 at 8 a.m. and grades 5 and 6 at 9:15 a.m. in the cafeteria. On April 8th, the Birds of a Prey presentation will be held for grade 5 students. At Wamsutta, on March 22nd, the 8th grade lock-in will be held. On April 1st, their school council meeting will be held at 5:30 p.m. And on April 2nd, Wamsutta's Title I Family Evening will be held. Over at the elementary schools at Hyman Fine, on March 27th, their PTO meeting will be held at 6:30 p.m. in the library. At Hill Roberts, on March 21st, the conferences will be held from 6 to 8 p.m. and there will be a book fair in the auditorium. On April 10th at Hill Roberts, the grade 4 chorus concert will be held at 7 p.m. in the auditorium. And on April 11th at Hill Roberts, the science night will be held from 6 to 8 p.m. in the auditorium. At Studley, on April 4th, their PTO meeting will be held at 6:30 p.m. And on April 5th at Studley, the grade 4 students will be signing at the Dunkin' Donuts Center prior to the Harlem Globetrotters game. Continuing with the elementary schools, at Thatcher and ELC on March 20th, the Parent Math Support Night for specifically subtraction will be sponsored by the math coach from 6:30 to 7:15 p.m. in the teacher's cafeteria, and that's for adults only. On March 21st, conferences will be held from 6 to 8 p.m. at Thatcher and ELC. On April 4th, the Parent Math Support Night for Multiplication will be sponsored by the math coach, and that will be held from 6:30 to 7:15 p.m. in the teacher's cafeteria. And again, that's for adults only. And finally, on April 4th at Thatcher and ELC, the Family Literacy Night will be held from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. in the pavilion.
Excuse me, Keith, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Just April 3rd was the Parent Math Support Night. You said April 4th. I just didn't want there to be confusion.
Sure, thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry to interrupt.
Parent Math Support Night for the multiplication, whereas March 20th is the Parent Math Support Night for subtraction.
Thank you.
Finally, at Willett on April 9th, their school council meeting will be held at 3 p.m. On April 11th, the Willett Garden meeting will be held at 6:30 p.m. And on April 11th at Willett, the Willett PTO meeting will be held at 7 p.m.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to open forum. This is a time when members of the public may address the school committee. Open forum is not a time for committee members to engage in dialogue with members of the public. Guidelines for open forum are available to you. Please know that we are interested in what you have to say, but we cannot respond without background information on your issue. Please come forward to the podium and state your name and address at this time. Okay, seeing nobody, we will move on. Minutes for February 25th, 2013 and March 4th, 2013. So we have do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, minutes pass. Thank you very much. Okay, now we go on to the consent agenda. We have a motion to accept a donation in the amount of $67.50 from the class of 2013 to Attleboro High School gifts donation line.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. I have a motion to accept a donation in the amount of $197.10 from the Attleboro Varsity Booster Club, Inc. to the cheerleaders from 50/50.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Hearing none. Motion passed. New business. Personnel report. Mr. David Sawyer, Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a short report. First, we have a resignation, Jamie McKenna, the ABA specialist at Willett, and that is because we have an appointment, and it's Jamie McKenna, the who was filling the role of paraprofessional for inclusion at Hill Roberts. That concludes my report.
Perfect. Any questions? None. Okay, going now to committee reports. Finance, Facilities, and Procurement Subcommittee, Mr. Ken Perrin.
Okay, we had a meeting this past Wednesday, and the future much will be coming from that meeting in regards to parking lots, some solar energy, and some RFPs. But at this time, we'll go right into the notification of bills and warrants. We have our first one dated March 6, 2013, the amount of $894,416.95, of which $464,901.46 makes up appropriations, special funds of $1,836.96, federal and state grants of $185,787.87, and total revolving funds of $241,890.66. Second one dated March 13, 2013, in the amount of $421,315.75, appropriations of $284,263.92, special funds of $8,468.25, federal state grants of $9,524.45, revolving funds of $190,059.13. Our next meeting will be, actually, is that? Our next meeting will be on April 2nd, which is actually a Tuesday this time. Thank you for accommodating me. At 7 o'clock, we will be starting this first initial pass of the budget, if anyone's interested in coming by to see that. And that, Mr. Chair, concludes our business.
Great, thank you very much. We move on to Curriculum and Instruction Subcommittee. Mr. O'Neill isn't here tonight. Would you like to fill in and update the committee on that?
Yes, thank you. Mr. O'Neill is out ill tonight, asked me to convey the following to the committee. At the last Curriculum and Subcommittee meeting, which was held on March 5th, 2013, there were actually a number of items discussed, which I'll report on now, one of which there does include a request for committee action, and I'll get to that momentarily. The first item was in regard to changes in science curriculum. A broad term, and I'll ask Mr. Sawyer to jump in a moment, but essentially we heard a presentation from Ms. Ramos and Ms. Souza, two science teachers at Wamsutta Middle School, also graduates of Boston College and Boston University respectively, and we appreciate their commendable partnership that they've found a way to bridge that gap. They presented on essentially there are national science standards being developed right now, and the state of Massachusetts is deliberating over whether or not to adopt those national standards or essentially to draft their own frameworks. And Mr. Sawyer will be able to elaborate on that momentarily. But essentially, it was a briefing to the committee and sort of a notification to the community that there will be changes in the way science is taught to students across the country, Attleboro included. I think there are some very important underlying reasons why that, again, I'll ask Mr. Sawyer to talk about. But what it's going to look like on the ground is the incorporation of more technology-based instruction, or at least instruction oriented around technology, and as well as a difference in sort of how that curriculum is spread out throughout grade levels. And again, Mr. Sawyer, being an educational professional, will be able to elaborate on that much more eloquently than I can. So if you'd like to fill in some of the gaps that I've...
Well, one, part of the presentation, they unpacked a standard for the subcommittee just to show how different these standards are. And it was, I think, very eye-opening for all of us to see how complex and demanding these new standards are going to be. It's going to pose a real challenge for the district to take on these new standards, and it's something we're going to have to spend a lot of time preparing for. As to why are we changing the standards and what does this all mean, I think it really in the end comes down to the fact that the jobs of the future are really more likely to be, there are more openings and there's more growth in industries that are related to math and science. And currently, we're losing a lot of as a nation, our competitive edge to other countries that are putting more emphasis on science. And, there's a recognition in this country that we need to do a better job with that. And I think these new standards are an attempt to right that ship.
Well, I just have, before you continue, does this have anything to do with like park that's coming in too, is like standards to bring?
This is a separate initiative, but it will all get put together in the long run.
All right.
Yes.
And certainly that's the hope, and I think one of the more interesting points of the discussion was the open questions that are still out there at both the state and national level in terms of how this will be tied into new assessments. But I thought, again, as Mr. Sawyer said, the point is, as a nation, we have to do better in terms of educating students in science, just like, and I think this is true from our conversation earlier, 20 years ago, we as a state had to do better with regard to English and math. That's what brought about the education reform in '93, and this is sort of, I think you would say, the next wave of that in terms of where we have to do better and where we have to make adjustments. So, again, it was more for informational purposes. I think it's fair to say the on-the-ground impact is not it's not necessarily this year, but it's something that will be coming in the years.
Well, because in as little as 2 years, this is going to become a very real thing for us. If we don't start planning for it in the coming year, we'll be not prepared for it when it comes. So that's partly why they were presented to get us up to speed on what's coming.
Yeah, and I would add to that based on Ms. Ramos's and Ms. Souza's presentation, it's very clear that there's a lot of preparation going into that, and if you could extend our gratitude to them.
Absolutely.
Any questions with regard to this?
Any other questions?
The second issue is a presentation with regard to the honors advanced placement programs at the high school. I know it's something that's been discussed at this table frequently in the last several years. At the school committee's request, the high school administration conducted a thorough evaluation of the advanced placement programs, the ways in which advanced placement programs are communicated to families and to students, and as a result of that report, and I believe all committee members received a memo from Assistant Principal Joe Connor to the superintendent and Mr. Sawyer and Mr. Rooney as well, essentially making a series of recommendations as to adjustments that can potentially be made in the advanced placement programs down the road. I'll just note a few of the recommendations, and if Mr. Sawyer has anything to add, or Dr. Durkin, obviously.
Hold on 1 second. What, did we I didn't see that. Did we
It was
receive
in
that?
the-
Was that,
It
did
was
I
in
miss
the
it?
it was in the
Curriculum
packet.
packet, yes.
All right, I must have been, all right, it's home, I'll check it again. I went through it, but maybe I must have missed
Yeah,
it.
I think
All right.
I think that memo is available, so perhaps we could just
Absolutely.
circulate
Yeah.
that to the committee again. Some of the sort of bullet point recommendations include looking at the workload guidelines for advanced placement courses. Advanced placement courses are going to be a heavy workload. Everyone knows that. That's an inherent part of an advanced placement program. But the administration does feel as though we need to take a close look to determine, to make sure that workload guidelines are being adhered to across the board. The evidence suggests that largely they are, but the evaluation essentially concluded that we need to take another look at that to make sure that that's being enforced uniformly. There's a prerequisite element to the recommendations that I would direct the committee's attention in the memo to, again, because I think it explains it better than I can. But essentially, what the recommendation states is that there will be prerequisites for advanced courses at the 9th grade level. One of the issues that the high school is facing is that students that are reaching the 11th grade, when advanced placement opportunities present themselves, it's unclear essentially whether students should enroll in those classes or not. The evidence suggests that if the prerequisites are imposed at the 9th grade level, then we can make those determinations earlier and essentially sort out some of those issues at the 9th grade level. Mr. Sawyer, do you want to?
So coming from the 8th grade to the 9th grade, a prerequisite to see if there's a AP
Yeah,
freshman classes?
I think there's a recognition that prerequisites of the high school are something that's missing. And we don't want a rigid system. We want a flexible system, but one that helps to help people to make good choices about what classes they should be in. And we think that the 9th grade prerequisites are the place to start and build them in as we go, rather than stick them in the middle of like, say 11th grade, where we're halfway through. So we think if we start with 9th grade and then build them, we can actually have them in 10th and 11th and so forth. But we think 9th grade is the place to start with this.
And then the other recommendations, again, spelled out in the memo from Mr. Connor, is that there will be a number of opportunities to collect more data, so that way the administration and the school committee can look at that data going forward and make sure that the correct determinations are being made. That is essentially the need to continue to evaluate and study these issues to make sure that students are being placed in the courses that they should be taking, so that they are being challenged and not being overwhelmed, as I think I would summarize as sort of the gist of that evaluation. Any questions on that piece?
Well, I'm just going to add, just from here, being involved in that AP with the parents, one, I'm glad that you're looking at the workload, because a lot of parents' concerns were the workload, the homework at night, hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, so that's a plus. Prerequisites, absolutely, I think that is a plus also. And the other thing too was, which I thought it was good at the 8th grade level, that they were actually having the algebra class, which is almost maybe a prerequisite there to going into being a freshman. But starting now, you're saying with the AP classes at the freshman level,
No,
right? Coming into 8, or
Well,
just doing the prerequisite from?
Prerequisites for 9th grade, but there are no AP classes in 9th grade.
Right,
So
but is there some in sophomore?
there's a couple, but they're electives.
Oh, all right,
So-
okay, so it's not, all right.
Yeah.
But start there to see where they are and how they're looking, is that how, because how would you do that? I guess I'm just curious.
Well, we would create a set of criteria that we think are appropriate for helping to decide who's appropriate for honors or not. So, I mean, it would be very similar to what we're doing with the advanced class in 8th grade. So it would be their grades, MCAS scores, attendance, teacher recommendation. It'd be a range of things that we look at. And no one thing keeps you out, but, there'd be a range of them, and sort of a decision made based on all the factors.
Okay.
Just the two, I think, related points, also, again, part of the memo, the need to further develop a continuum of courses and programs, so that way it's not just students are coming along, they're in one level of courses, and then all of a sudden they're in an AP course. The point of the prerequisites going from 8th grade to 9th grade and making the correct determinations for student placement at that level is that students are in that level of advanced rigor throughout their high school experience. However, it is also the case, as Mr. Sawyer said, the prerequisites need to be flexible enough so that way we're not shutting the door and inadvertently robbing students of the opportunity to challenge themselves. Is that a fair characterization?
Yeah, I mean, we want to have an inclusive honors AP program, but we do want people to make appropriate choices, and it's not good for anybody when somebody's in the wrong room, not able to do the work that they're being asked to do.
Yeah, and I found that I think at times, frankly, not really in a school committee forum, but there are times when these discussions about advanced placement programs versus honors programs versus whatever other types of programs takes on what almost seems like an ideological bent, when what we're really trying to do is make sure that every student is in the right course, and the right course means, again, being challenged but not overwhelmed, and frankly, that takes a lot of balancing that speaks more to pragmatism than ideology, I think. I'm sorry, Dr. Durgan?
No, I just want to, I think summing it up, which everyone is saying, we're ensuring children to be successful, not to fail. It is not in our best interest to place children in classes where their frustration level is so high or their tolerance is so low that they get turned off to learning. The exciting part about the AP program is more and more students have been amazed at what they're capable of doing, which is what we want for our kids, to stretch themselves and do that. But as we look at the conditions that help students feel confident, because it's as much about confidence as it is about competence, we're analyzing to see how can we ensure success rather than a reluctance or even possible failure. So understand that's our intention.
Just recently I was hearing about a student who was enrolled in one course, and then a teacher talked him into taking an AP course, and I can say that that student is brimming with confidence. Correct? There you go. And so, if there are any other questions with regard to the AP, the
No, and I'm just gonna, one more to bring back to the table when, speaking of AP classes, that, hearing, that the classes are very large. And when I say large, sometimes you're talking 28, 30 in a classroom. The participation of maybe a handful of them, and I'm not saying they should or shouldn't be there, but I mean, this is the feedback that I know that was in the mini auditorium that I'm bringing back to you, is that's something too that we just gotta make sure that we look at.
I would just say that the class sizes in that program are really a mirror reflection of the class size issues across the building.
Right.
That there are AP classes with less than 20 kids in them, and there are AP classes with, 28 plus in them.
Right.
And that you'll see in honors classes and college prep classes and other, environments as well. It's really a building-wide issue, not an AP issue.
Right, but in the prerequisites though is great, because too, that I hear so often that probably the handful of those kids should be in that AP class, the ones that are participating and the ones that are really solid. But again, that can be across the board, whether it's an honors, but I mean, just keep that in mind, because that is the feedback that I know that I'm getting, what parents are saying, so it's nice that, we look at the whole picture, and that was their concerns, but thank you.
I think just to Ms. Furtado's point, as we go about attempting to collect as much data as we possibly can, that might be one more point that we want to emphasize, and making sure we're keeping an eye on those enrollment numbers.
Absolutely.
Last point, AP honors. There's an AP potential night, which is the name of the event. It is aimed primarily at sophomores and current sophomores and their families, although several juniors and their families are welcome to participate, and some have been specifically invited to. That is taking place this week on Wednesday, March 20th at maybe at 6, maybe at 6:30. At a time that the Attleboro High School administration is aware of.
It's at 6.
At 6 p.m.
Yeah.
And it's in the mini auditorium at Attleboro High
You
School.
read it.
Any other questions on that? Moving into number 3 of 5 on the curriculum subcommittee report. The Massachusetts Math and Science Initiative, known as the MIMSI grant, has been a big part of the Attleboro School District for the last several years. There have been changes in terms of the needs of the Attleboro School District. There have been changes as to the requirements of the MIMSI grant. In order to maintain the current relationship with the MIMSI grant, the Attleboro School District would be losing money as opposed to receiving money. Substantively, the important point to remember is that the function of the grant is no longer operative for our school district. I believe it was presented to the curriculum subcommittee as an amicable parting between the school district and the MIMSI grant. The services that they offer as part of the grant, Attleboro has availed ourselves of over the last several years, but programs like the trainings and conferences and whatnot we have now engaged in. In order to continue to engage in them, we would be spending money but not receiving any funding, and therefore the school district has, as I said, amicably parted from the MIMSI grant. Dr. Durkin, Mrs. Sawyer, anyone want to?
Yeah, I mean, our participation in that grant has transformed the AP culture at Attleboro High School. It really was a very good experience for us, and we've taken a lot from it. I mean, we trained so many people on their dollar. It's been a real benefit to the whole school. But the dynamics of their finances have changed, and it just doesn't make economic sense for us anymore. And we only had 1 year left in the grant anyways, so this was about to end in any case. So I think the timing is right, and we will continue to participate in certain things with them, you know, as it makes sense for us. But you know, largely we're going our separate ways, and they've done a good job preparing us for this moment, anyways.
And we're going to stay friends.
Yeah.
And we'll keep an eye on that, obviously. So if opportunities arise for a new partnership, we'll take advantage of that. Moving on to the fourth item, fourth of five, and this is the one that requires committee action. So if anyone's, for whatever reason, hasn't been paying attention, this is the one where we need you. The SMARTS Collaborative, another component of the school system that has done a lot of work, and students across the community and surrounding communities have taken advantage of, has requested that the school district change the classification of our relationship with that entity. Currently, it is a DESE collaborative. Because the DESE is changing their regulations with regard to how they treat collaboratives, the SMARTS program, in order to stay viable, needs to be classified as a 503C, 501(3), excuse me. And Mr. Rose, if you have anything to add on this, I think we essentially are just requesting a motion to change the designation of our relationship from a DESE collaborative to a 501(3).
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Absolutely. The SMARTS Collaborative does an outstanding job. We participate in it very effectively. That participation is going to continue. All we're doing is we're just changing the classification because it's not financially feasible for the SMARTS Collaborative to continue to operate under the DESE umbrella. And so by the school committee allowing SMARTS to pull out of that DESE collaborative, they'll be able to operate more effectively. But in order for them to tell the DESE, thanks, we're going to pull out, they need to forward the minutes to this meeting saying that, yes, the school committee's approved us to pull out of the DESE umbrella.
And Mr. Rose, the motion as we have it is to essentially just terminate our relationship as a DESE Educational Collaborative. Do you need us to add into the motion the designation of it as an entity that we'll continue to have a relationship with, or just the termination?
I do not. In fact, thanks, Mr. Murphy. The answer is no. That which is listed here in the document is the exact language that I received from SMARTS for their recommendation.
Okay.
So we're set based on the motion the way we have.
Okay. In that instance, I will make a motion to approve the termination of the SMARTS Collaborative as a Massachusetts DESE Educational Collaborative.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Perrin?
I tend to agree with you, Mr. Murphy, that I want to keep SMARTS here, obviously, but we have to, I would believe that we have to make a motion that we'll allow this entity, now it's becoming a nonprofit, unrelated to the school, to operate in our school system. And I would tend to agree with you.
I don't know that we need to, but I think that what we can do is we can pass this motion, and then we'll just make a second motion recognizing it as a 501(3) that we will continue to engage in a relationship with. And that way, Mr. Rose can forward to SMARTS the motion that they need, and we can have a second motion in case anyone asks, what is your relationship with SMARTS?
Because they use our schools. And
Yes, they do.
So does that work?
I'd be more comfortable, by way of contract, we'll later on allow them to use our schools again anyway, but, yeah, I'd be comfortable with that, and I would think that all the, was it four schools and systems involved in this? I believe.
I believe so. There's, I don't want to list them yet.
Yeah, that's okay, but
the answer is
I
yes.
don't think that
And
anyone
I
has
think
to-
that's a good idea to add in that 501(c)(3).
Okay.
Good idea.
Okay, so this motion's on the table to terminate the relationship as a DESE collaborative.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. That motion is passed. I will now make a motion to recognize the relationship between the Attleboro School District and the SMARTS Collaborative as a 501(3) that we will continue to work with. I think it's 501(3).
No, 501(c)(3).
It's a C.
I apologize.
Yeah, it was written wrong.
I'm going to withdraw that motion. And I'm going to make another motion to recognize the Smarts Collaborative as a 501c3
Yep.
that the Attleboro School District will continue to have a working relationship with.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We extend our gratitude to the Smarts Collaborative, a 501c3 we continue to have a relationship with. And it has its own copyright according to the note of this, so I think that's an error. Finally, final piece of the curriculum subcommittee report is a correspondence we received from the Office of Civil Rights in the Federal Department of Education. It is a correspondence that has gone out to all school districts, essentially reminding school districts that under federal law and common sense, I think, students with disabilities have complete equal access to extracurricular programs as well as academic offerings. Ms. McCarthy, is there anything else that?
No, that's accurate. It's not a change in the regulations. It was just guidelines to make sure that all districts were implementing and creating opportunities for students with disabilities to participate, which we are.
And that correspondence is also included in that same packet, but if any committee members need it for whatever reason, I'm sure Ms. McCarthy can provide it. I believe that's it. We wish Mr. O'Neill a speedy recovery. Thank you. The next meeting, when is the next meeting? The next meeting is scheduled for May 7th, 2013 in this room. However, there was at least at one point discussion of an additional meeting that I don't believe is on the calendar right now, but if it's put on the calendar, we'll obviously notify the committee. Thank you.
Great. Okay, Policy Subcommittee, you're putting on the meeting held on March 11, 2013. I have, actually for the Policy Subcommittee, I have the minutes here, so let's approve the minutes. Right, because Judy, these were the ones that, yeah, I just said to bring forward in case you had questions because of the motions we were bringing forward. So, so I will, to Barbara and Dave, any questions? Do I have a motion to accept the minutes for the Policy Subcommittee meeting that was held on March 11th, 2013?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Discussion? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? None? Judy, that passes. Thank you. Okay, handbooks for the school year 2013-2014. Everyone has in front of them pretty much their, I say minor changes because there's just dismissal times, just some kindergarten update. The only thing I do want to mention is that there was a line that was added regarding cough drops at the elementary level, where it just kind of basically sums it up where cough drops do need to go to the nurse's office, which I'm assuming before they didn't have to. Is that, Superintendent Durkin? Was that kind of a gray area and we're just
I believe we're clarifying it. Since I was not present at the
Okay.
meeting, I'll defer to Mr.
all right,
Sawyer.
I think we are just, yeah.
Ms. Ebert.
Yeah.
Wasn't it just really tightening it up more procedural, really?
Yes.
Okay, yep. And there's a written parent permission is required for use, and it's just so, they can just monitor and make sure that, the child is getting better, and if not, why, and just, just regarding the health-wise. I mean, just little minor changes. Does anybody really have any questions? I mean, I'm just trying to the other thing too was, cellular phones. That was a big thing, or should I say electronic devices. That was a, something that was a little comical, I guess, at the policy subcommittee. In the handbooks, it states that in the middle school level, there are no electronics basically to be entered into the building. Well, however, we know that they're entered every day. So what they wanted to do was they basically, we had the middle school principals at the meeting, and the electronic devices, they wanted to make sure that the parents and everyone are aware that cellular phones, any kind of electronics, need to be turned off when entering the building. And in the classroom, they definitely want to, and I'm just gonna read actually this verbiage, because I think it's really important, that all electronic devices and any item deemed inappropriate to the educational process are prohibited from the classroom and must be powered down. So that it was huge. It has to be powered down and should be stored in student lockers, except with express permission from the educator. So if it was a Kindle of any kind and the educator thought it was okay to have in the class, is deemed appropriate, they could use it. But we definitely want to stress that put a lock on your locker, store it. It should be stored in your locker. And at all times, it should be powered down from the time you walk into the building to the time that you leave the building. Am I missing anything? I think that was a big concern with the middle schools and with the handbook. We just want to have them hand in hand. There's an update after school detention. Is there anything more? Do you think I really have to touch Mr. Sawyer? I think pretty much everything is just really procedural, just kind of.
Minor stuff.
Yeah. So does anybody have any other questions? None, okay. So right now I have, that basically was the handbooks for the year 2013. We have to approve them, right, Judy? These, for the handbook? I don't see a motion on here, but we do, right?
Usually do.
Yeah, we usually, right? Okay, so I make a motion that we approve the handbooks for the school year 2013, 2014 with the changes that we have in front of us tonight.
Second.
All right, any discussion or questions? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? None, so we can move forward, Judy, with the handbooks. All right, I have a motion to approve policy EEAB, Special Education Transportation, with the amendments as presented. And basically, it's just, on one part, and the reason why, because it's special education transportation, there is no changes in the transportation. I just want to make everyone aware of that, the public. The only thing that we had in the policy was we had, if there is no one at the school to receive the student, we had the kindergarten. And what we wanted to do is we just took out kindergarten and we wanted to put special education student. That's all. It's just wording. Nothing is affected on the special education transportation. Anybody have any questions? Okay, so I have a motion to approve policy EAB.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, none. Policy passes. All right, now we have a motion to approve policy JBA, teen dating violence. Again, there was just one word change, so we just want to make sure that the public teen dating violence, we just updated couple, instead of in need of services, CHINS, it's requiring assistance. It's CRA now. So it's just some state legalities with just renaming. So any questions? Okay, so I motion to approve policy GBA, teen dating violence.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, none, passes. Motion to approve policy exhibit JE-E-1, attendance notification through Attleboro Public Schools, with the updated language. Again, the change from CHINS, which is child in need of services, to CRA, child requiring assistance. And it's just that name change on the back of the policy. So discussion, or well, do I have a motion to approve policy exhibit JE-E-1?
Second. Make a motion.
Yeah, that was the
So
first
moved.
second, yep.
Okay.
Discussion, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Opposed, abstentions, hearing none, passes, great. The next meeting will be held for the policy subcommittee on April 1st, 2013 at 7 PM in this room. And before we have a motion to adjourn, I'm gonna, have the superintendent, due to the impending storm, who knows what we're gonna get. If we can just update the community, again, as protocol and how we will, foresee tomorrow.
I first want to say that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education determined today that the long composition English Language Arts test of the MCAS, which was planned to be given tomorrow, will be rescheduled for Monday, March 25th. We have generally a 8 to 10 day window when the ELA test takes place. However, one firm date that does not have any latitude is the long composition. That is given in grades 4, 7, and 10. The reason for that is obvious, is the prompt that's given for that is done throughout the state. Several superintendents obviously emailed and spoke to the commissioner's office, and it was determined that the change would take place. There will be a makeup day. The test will be administered on Monday. Many of our teachers were happy to have a few extra days to prepare our kids. And then next Thursday, the students who do miss it on Monday, which we hope they will not, there is a makeup day for that. We've switched some things around, but generally the exam schedule from the high school will remain the same. And essentially, we are glad this happens because even if there was a delay, it would put a serious issue in terms of children being compromised and not putting their best foot forward, which we know all of Attleboro's kids will do. Tomorrow's pending storm, I'm sure all of you are tired of this and hearing my voice at 5:30 in the morning. I will be working with Jason Parento as I do. He will be on as of midnight. We understand the snow or rain or something may start. He and I will talk in the morning. Obviously, the status of the roads depends on how well the city can help working with that. Jason and his crew is very responsible for the parking lots. I am hoping that we may have a normal day. We don't know. I have been in touch with the other superintendents. It's a wait and see. So we do hope for the best, and we know that as much as possible we want to be able to keep our children in school, but safety will not be compromised. So I will let you know. Stay tuned.
I would just like to
Thank
add
you.
that
Yeah, sure.
on top of the normal media outlets that we publish this information, we now have a district Twitter account, and we tweet information like this out. You can follow us at @Attleboro_PS for public schools.
Mr. Murphy and Mr. Parent look very excited about that.
If I knew how to get on Twitter, I would.
That'll be the first information we send out.
We await your tweet.
Say it again. It's
At @Attleboro_PS.
perfect. All right. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Have a good night.
I'm trying to learn how to tweet.
Sophomore, junior girls, they all know.